skin suit. It's Lucas Ericsson.
And of course, one of his final races for those who, or not just Ericsson, but other riders here in the peloton, for those who are national champions. One of the last opportunities to show that jersey before the national championships, and they'll battle it out to try and win the jersey again in what, a little over 10 days or so,
yeah.
It'll take, particularly for the European season. I know the Finnish championships are this weekend, but the weekend after, predominantly every European nation hosting on the same day.
There we go. Yeah, most of them, as Hannah says, next weekend. And you can catch an awful lot of them here at the Home of Cycling as well, on Eurosport, Discovery Plus, and on Max as well. I am deep in my Italian research at the moment, looking at slightly smaller, shall we say, Italian riders, Hannah, because I'm doing coverage of the men's and women's Italian national champs next weekend, which I'm looking forward to, actually, particularly on the women's side, where the strength in depth in Italian women at the moment is so good, particularly on the sprinty front too, so they should be good. I love the national champs because they're such odd races, aren't they? They're so weird. They bring together this mishmash of, quite often in lots of these nations, amateurs and pros racing together, riders who are desperately trying to beat the highest ranked riders from their country, and then those riders desperately trying to get into that national champions jersey as well. It's a tough dynamic, isn't it?
It's brilliant, and I think as well for some of those riders who perhaps are on that cusp of making it into pro teams, it's a good opportunity for them to show themselves, show what they can do, and have a good result, a good showing, but also good for those going back home. Sometimes the odds are against them, aren't they? If you're in a World Tour team or a pro team, if you're a lone rider and you're up against some continental teams where you've got maybe 8, 10, 12 riders, but nevertheless always an entertaining weekend.
Also, let's not forget, some of those nations may not have made their final selections for the road races at the Paris Olympics as well. I think for some of those nations, it might come down to national championships for those final selections. Lots of nations do it in different ways. Some are done through panels and what have you. And remember, in Great Britain, it used to be that in an Olympic year, the first place finisher from a national road race championship would go to the Olympics in the road race, regardless of who they were. Even if they were an amateur rider who maybe was like a first category rider who'd got into the race, if they won, they were going to the Olympics. And as you can imagine, that made for quite interesting racing, particularly in the 90s. I think a lot of nations would be like that as well, where there's a wonderful opportunity to show yourself off in an Olympic year in national champs. Have a look at the listings on Discovery Plus, folks, and you'll be able to see all the different national championships that we are bringing you here next weekend. It'll be another busy weekend of racing at Home of Cycling, that is for sure. It looks an awful lot drier down there, Hannah, now, doesn't it? I think the shots we were seeing earlier were from the helicopter from earlier on today. Thankfully, it looks dry.
And for the riders, thankfully, that it's dry, particularly into this run-in, and it's so fast, that run into Ormosh. But poor old Matic Struma, it's been a really long day out in the breakaway. He's the last survivor of that breakaway, and you can see just how much this is hurting. The pain etched across his face.
Yep.
He's just putting everything into this. 26 seconds now. You know, as I said before, I think once the teams behind in that peloton, and particularly those who are wanting to try and sprint with their protected sprinters today, once they really start to put the gas down, you know, this gap will come tumbling, but he's going to try and do something to put a stop to that. 23 seconds, 8.7 kilometres, the shoulders rocking and rolling, you can feel his pain.
I'm just looking at his stats on Pro Cycling Stats. He doesn't appear to have raced since the 19th of May, where he rode 0.2 UCI national race, the Grand Prix Gorenjka, where he was 12. But actually, he's raced very lightly this year too. This is his, it's his first, it depends. He did a year at Ljubljana Gusto Santic, according to Pro Cycling Stats 2020. This is his second year at that level. He spent 2 years in between at club level, racing at national level. But he's raced very, very lightly this spring too. I just wonder whether maybe he's had a problem there. But appears to be going very well. That's why he's making the most of his time, because this is the highest level that he's raced at this year, being a point pro race. All of his other UCI races have been 0.1 or 0.2. And we doff our caps to him, Matti Zuma, because he had a fantastic ride today. Remaining rider from our breakaway with 8 2.1 kilometres to go, and as Hannah mentioned now, 2k to go to that third sprint of the day. Do you know, Hannah, I'm glad you shared this on there. I think that third sprint of the day is actually missing from my roadbook printout, from the roadbook. I don't think it's on there. But you're right, though. Yeah, I'm presuming it carries, I don't know whether you've got this info that I haven't got, Hannah, you might have. Does it carry the bonus seconds as well, this one? Or is it right, it's a proper one?
It's a proper sprint. It comes with the 5 points towards the jersey, and then the 3 bonus seconds too. So it actually can almost throw a bit of a disruption, a bit of a curveball into the run into this finish, because of course teams are clearly wanting to try and go for bonus seconds here. We've seen that with Bahrain Victorious, Mate Mohoric, and UAE Team Emirates with Doman Novak. But of course, those teams with sprinters, they want to try and keep that control there to make sure that they can deliver their sprinters for a stage victory. And particularly when you go through the finish at Ormosh, there's a little bit of a pinch point after they go through the line. You know, it could offer up a little bit of, you know, teams lose that organisation. So you go through the finish line, you have that sweeping left turn, then it's that right-hand turn, and then that'll take you on this sweeping left road, which goes to 5 kilometres to go. And then you get to the roundabout, take that left turn, then it's wide, and you have that opportunity to get a little bit more control back. But it can certainly add some disruption.
Definitely. 700 metres to go alongside the River Drava. This is the main finishing straight they'll be finishing on in 6.7 k's time. Here we go. This is interesting. EF doing the lead out too, and it looks like UAE also thinking about Doman Novak too. Narvaez in the middle. Narvaez thinking he's going to sit second wheel. Might well take this one by the looks of it. We'll see though. Waiting, it's a long run into the finish. Ben Healy's gone with it too as well. So this is very much a general classification focused sprint. Narvaez ready, very twitchy while they follow. The UAE rider in there. Ben Healy's gone early though. Just missed him out of shot there, but I think Healy, the Irish champion, just coming off the edge. There he is, Healy and Narvaez. I can't see Healy beating Narvaez in a sprint like this, and he doesn't. Jonathan Narvaez, the Ecuadorian road race champion, takes max points ahead of the Irish road race champion. So 5, 3 and 1 points, but crucially 3, 2 and 1 bonus seconds. Narvaez getting the better of them there.
Yeah, up against Narvaez. Doman Novak had to go early, didn't he, there, and trying to do something to take some bonus seconds. He had one more bonus second to his tally in the general classification. Narvaez takes 3, but here's this disruption I was talking about, because now Jonathan Narvaez and Ben Healy, they've gone clear, they've got an advantage, and they're actually committing to this. So Narvaez, despite having Viviani within the Ineos Grenadiers, they're committing to this move. Meanwhile, Novak had sat up thinking that it would all come back together. He's got some work to do if he wants to try and get back up towards the front. But Healy, the two national champions of their respective countries, Healy and Narvaez, they've flown the nest.
Well, you pointed it out, you hinted at this happening, Hannah, and now you see it happen in front of our very eyes. They can't be surprised, particularly the two riders who went for it. I mean, if it had been, say, Groenewegen and Bauhaus going for the sprint, you could guarantee they'd sit up and come back. But those two, no chance once they've got a bit of daylight. They looked back, didn't they, to see whether it was worth it. They've decided it definitely is, and Narvaez must be licking his lips, because to have Healy with you, he's such a strong time trialist and late attacker as well. It's probably the perfect two-up combination, these two, isn't it?
It's a great duo. It's a brilliant duo, because I'm curious to see now, will Narvaez come through and give Healy? Yeah, he does. I'm curious, because the Ineos Grenadiers, they're still sitting very far towards the front. It's only Uno X Mobility with one rider, and that's the Norwegian champion who we saw up towards the front. But they're fully committing to this move now. The disruption, and I have to say, it's smart from the organisers to put this so late on.
Yeah,
it's not a dead set sprint now.
Definitely not. Definitely not, because it does throw the cat amongst the pigeons so late on. Well, we go back to the shots, and we've got storks nesting. Apparently it's a good sign to have storks nesting on your house, Hannah. That was something I saw quite a lot of during the Tour of Hungary. This part of Europe, you get a lot of storks. And people, when they have new houses built, have their chimney built in such a way that will actually attract the storks. I don't know what happens when you light a fire beneath them, but maybe this time of year you just don't light your fire. But Yeah, apparently it's supposed to be. Apparently it goes back to the whole stork imagery thing. Apparently it's supposed to bring good fortune and fertility to a household by having storks on your chimney.
The RSPB will be onto you if you light your fire in the summer when the storks are nesting.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Or if you didn't know they were there, and ooh, should we light a fire tonight? It's chilly. Anyway, there's confirmation of it. Novak still getting that 1 second there. So these could be important come Sunday's finale in Novo Mesto, of course. Well, riders getting dropped, and the first of those sprinty types I've noticed there, Hannah, getting dropped is Marc Sarraut, that rider we were talking about earlier, 31-year-old Frenchman for Groupama FDG. So if it stays like this, Sarraut will not be there to help Paul Penouet, who's had a rough run into this, getting involved with that crash. But look, they're being stingy with the gap, aren't they? Narvaez and Healy pressing on, but you're right, there's an awful lot of Ineos Grenadiers jerseys there near the front. I don't know whether they're holding and trying to get in the way, spoil it a bit.
Perhaps. I'm curious once we get through these trees here. I mean, they're still wanting to make sure they've still got a good position up towards the front. The Ineos Grenadiers, one of the riders there just pulled to the right-hand side. They still want to make sure that, should it all come back together, Viviani's still well placed. They don't want to completely lose that almost front row.
There we go, the oldest fully preserved Pannonian house, over 300 years old. Look at that. I'd be very careful if I was the Thatcher working on that roof. I wouldn't want to put my full weight on it. I'll put the full weight on their bikes and pedals right now. Narvaez and Healy, they're not hanging around. They've only got 2.8k to go. It's a tiny little anti-clockwise loop, this one. And they are struggling to bring them back as well, these two.
They're not making it easy for the peloton behind as they just take the last sips of fluids, they get rid of the bottles, they discard. They're fully committed here, and this is interesting when you look down at EF Education Easy Post, quite like in the Giro d'Italia where they didn't take a pure out-and-out sprinter, but they said we're going to find stages and find other ways to be able to win stages. We're going to use different tactics, we're going to be aggressive and get ourselves into the breakaways, and you know it worked to their favour with that victory, stage victory they had on the mountaintop with Georg. Here, they don't necessarily bring a sprinter, Jez, and they've taken this opportunity.
So this is the final 2 kilometres of the opening stage of the 30th edition of the Tour of Slovenia with me, Jez Cox, and Hannah Walker. We are watching two incredibly strong riders trying to hold off that peloton. Jonathan Narvaez, the Ecuadorian champion, Ben Healy, the Irish national road race champion, and it's coming back together. And it's come to the point now where it's Ineos Grenadiers who pick it up. They did wait until the last moment, until the very last moment where Narvaez was being absorbed there. Healy will also do his best to hang in there because they just won bonus seconds. They don't want to lose time coming into this finish. He needs to hang on to this group. That'll be a mission in itself as well. So, Ineos Grenadiers hooking up with Uno X, thinking about Alexander Kristoff. Kristoff, who we've not really mentioned so far, bar the sign-on. There's a sweeping left-hander that takes them back in line with the finish. 1,300 metres to go.
You could see the intent in making sure that they were the first team into that left-hand corner. That was a real crucial point to make sure that they're up towards the front. They had that position, they had that control. It's the former British champion in Swift who's just on the front there. His job's done for the day. Here's Tudor starting to move themselves up. And it's Uno X Mobility who still have the strength in numbers. They've got that firepower. Oh. But at the minute, Jaco Alula are a little bit out of position, but they're coming up fast.
Wow, yeah, here come Jaco Alula on the left. Groenewegen is the third of those riders. It's so messy in there, Hannah. There's riders going backwards, left, right and centre all over the place. We've done well to avoid a crash there as well. Look out for Moschetti as well in the colours of 236.5, who's trying to move his way up. Alexander Kristoff in good position, sits second wheel of those two Uno X riders, but at the moment it's looking like Groenewegen is having the best ride to the finish. He is third there. I presume that's Mezgec just in front of him. Not sure it is actually though. Guillaume Groenewegen ready in the middle of the shot. He switches onto the Uno X train. Uno X have got an excellent run here at the finish for Alexander Kristoff. Here goes Groenewegen on the right. Where are we going to be down the middle? We're looking back at the middle of the race. Here we go. Groenewegen is leading at the moment, but here comes Kristoff, the European champion. Kristoff, former European champion, I say. Groenewegen on the line. That's going to be a photo between Groenewegen and Kristoff. What do you think, Hannah? Having just seen it live, what do you reckon?
Photo finish. It's got to be between Kristoff and Groenewegen. Groenewegen coming from a long way back there. They were a little bit out of position. They managed to salvage that very, very quickly and put amends to the fact that they were out of position. A great job done in that lead out, because of course Mezget's not able to be there with Groenewegen. I'm curious, close on the line, it seemed as though Christoph had that almost shorter run. There's a slight bearing to the left, but it says on our screen, Groenewegen gets it.
Well, there we go. Well, shall we wait until we see? Shall we wait until we there? Oh, how's this going to help us? Oh, wow, we need to see that again.
Very close.
Yes. Yeah, I think in the end it was Elmar Reinders, the Dutchman, who was doing the final lead out. I'm so used to seeing Mezgets doing that job. There he is. Cal O'Brien also involved in the running too, I think, the Aussie. Dylan Groenewegen, well, he already has 4 wins in this race to his name, stage wins. That would put him clear in second, the most stage wins of all time. He's not quite in on the 6th, which is the leading one. Welsford was there. Groenewegen gets the finger in the air. It didn't look like Christoph was arguing with him either, Hannah.
No, not at all. And this was the moment into the finish where it was Reinders who handed over to Groenewegen. Groenewegen knew that Christoph and Kulset would be, sort of right up there. But then this is where Christoph goes. Groenewegen right onto the wheel. He finds his way through that little gap there. Bauhaus is trying to get himself in the slipstream, trying to challenge. In the end, there's a couple of bike lengths, and also there was Gomez, the Colombian rider for Polti Cometa. So they put amends to the fact that they were out of position, and, well, Groenewegen knew straight away. Christoph immediately knew as well that disappointment. He knew he'd missed out.
Yeah, I'd underestimated. Oh, dear. There is Luka Mezgets. You can see how he has lost skin as well as kit, hasn't he? Finished in that group by the looks of it too. Look at his skin suit, Hannah. Shredded, isn't it?
Yeah, it just shows the speed also in which Mezgets crashed, and perhaps they really miss Mezgets into that final.
Yeah, well, they may have missed him, but Dylan Groenewegen still gets his 5th win in this race now, ahead of Alexander Christoph. So close. Phil Bauhaus just in behind them. It's Giovanni Lonardi in 4th for Polti. Sam Welsford dipping in 5th ahead of Dainese, and Dujardin in 7th. Well, Paul Penouet did get back in there for 10th, as you can see from that. Luis Blower, the Belgian rider, in 9th. And Mark Ustenga, the Spaniard, in 8th. Look at that for a multinational top 10 too. Notably, though, no Slovenians in there amongst them, despite the fact they've been so active in this race, but some of the world's very best sprinters too. That was a cracker. I had it down on paper as being more of a straightforward run-in, but it was a little bit of a sweep round that bend, wasn't it?
And it just showed, whilst Alexander Christoph had almost that shorter line around this sweeping left-hand bend, just the power and speed that Groenewegen was able to come to, and the lunge for the line made all the difference.
Well, for those of you watching on Eurosport Traditional, until tomorrow, see you then. Bye-bye. And to those watching on our digital coverage on Discovery Plus and on Max as well, you're going to get to see the ramifications of this stage and some of the jersey presentation. I'm not sure who the Group Armour rider was there, but he had a speed wobble and nearly took out the riders all around him, Hannah.
Yeah, and you could see as well, once riders had done their lead-outs and they had peeled off to hand over to the next rider in the lead-out, the speed in which riders are coming past, and the difference in speed once you've slowed down, some riders having to find their way through, it becomes, especially when you see it from the helicopter shot and see it from this bird's eye view of how chaotic it can be. Riders sort of missing each other, and this was the moment there even where Groenewegen just gets through in time to start to power through to beat Christoph. But when the rider from Uno X Mobility pulls off, the difference in speed.
Absolutely.
No Viviani up there.
No sign of the Ineos jerseys, no. Well, it was longer in the end today than we expected at 206 kilometres. These were our 5 riders in the break, including the teenager for Adria Mobile there, looking around to make sure the camera was going to get him in the breakaway. He actually did quite well in there, but he was the first to be caught as well. Then things started to break up as we came towards that measly 1 King of the Mountains point, because everyone wanted to try and get it. First of those to go in the end to make make it stick coming towards it was Tomasz Kalioros for Pierre Baguette. and he would survive to the top. Behind, they were desperately trying to stay in the breakaway, knowing they hadn't even got the one King of the Mountains point either. He did survive to the top. That's where it was. I think I missed it in commentary just as he went through it. Tomasz Kalgioros will be our King of the Mountains indigo jersey wearer for stage 2 tomorrow when they roll out Zalets. It did come back together, but then sensing that things were falling apart, Matis Zuma took off with a really powerful ride, and he won the first 2 sets of full 3-second bonuses and points for the red jersey competition as well. He will not be wearing a jersey tomorrow, but he can be delighted with how things went. I don't know if he'd have held on to that, Hannah, if I'm honest. He raises his hand just as he's caught. But he'd have done well to hang on to that speeding peloton before coming to the finish and not lose time. This was that sprint that came to the line where we saw that fantastic late breakaway from Naves and Healy. Domen Novak, tall Slovenian rider, hanging on for third, but then not hanging on to those 2. In the end, though, he desperately tried to get with them. And then we had the run into the finish, that long lead out from Uno X. Colset it was, as Hannah mentioned, leading out Alexander Kristoff. Kristoff not able to make the most of it. By the time Groenewegen started, Kristoff with a fine second place, but not getting the win. I haven't yet seen, I don't know if we will see the actual camera shot. There it is, as I say it. Yeah, it's a rim's depth at the most, 50 mil, I reckon. By the looks of that, 30 mil maybe. There it is again. Groenewegen gets his 5th win to take him into 2nd place on the all-time Tour of Slovenia stage wins record since 1993. Kristoff in 2nd, Phil Bauhaus 3rd, Giovanni Lonardi 4th, Welsford, Danese, Dujardin, Bustenga, Blua and Penouet in 10th. I've written down on my kind of overview of the stages, Hannah, that tomorrow is a likely sprint finish as well. But I don't know what you think, looking at the profile. They've got to go over the 2nd category climb, the TIENDA Echot3ch, I think it's called. But it comes from a fair way out from the finish. I say that, looking at the profile. Oh, yeah, 82k to go. It's quite a long way out. So what do you reckon? Are we up for a sprint again tomorrow or what?
It's going to be interesting, isn't it? I think looking at today's finish, the way in which the organisers designed this course and where they put each of the sprints and the King of the Mountains. Of course, there's money on offer on several occasions tomorrow for those blue intermediate sprints, but the final sprint coming with just a little under 40 kilometres to go, give or take. So I think it's going to be a lot more controlled. It's still quite technical into the finish, I have to say. There's a few twists and turns into Rogaška Slatina, but we know the finish quite well from previous years, and a lot of riders who have done this race before will know this finish well too. So on paper, sprint finish, but you never know.
There is confirmed the overall classification. No great surprise with the 10-second bonus on the line either. Groenewegen taking over the race lead ahead of Kristoff Bauhaus.